Okay, so I'm very glad to be here, and I'm very I have a lot of respect for Jabotinsky, and over here it says here, let me read this quote from Jabotinsky because it's very interesting. מזה 3 שנים אני פונה אליכם בקריאה, אני מזהיר אתכם בלי הפוגה שהקטסטרופה מתקרבת. אינכם רואים את הר הגז שיתחיל תכף לפלוט את אש ההשמדה. ורשה, 9 באב, תרצח, 1938. Okay, so let me translate that, since I understand that this audience does not understand Hebrew. For 3 years I have been begging you, calling on you to without stopping, that the catastrophe is approaching. You do not see the volcano that will very soon, very soon, immediately, will begin to spout forth the fire of the destruction of the Holocaust. Holocaust is a fire, yes, and this is in Warsaw on Tisha B'Av in 1938. You know, Tisha B'Av is our national day of mourning, okay? And it's a very interesting coincidence that I was born in Germany, and my family and I saw the Holocaust approaching, yes, and we left Germany and immigrated to the United States. And the day we left Germany was Tisha B'Av in 1938, the same day, the very same day that Jabotinsky said this. Okay, so I think we need a little technical help here. Okay, so now let's get started. Wars and other conflicts are among the main sources of human misery. So, well, you just heard from Neva that I got this prize a few years ago, and I had to give a speech when getting the prize. And I started my speech with this sentence: wars and other conflicts are among the main sources of human misery. Most attempts to bring about peace have been on a piecemeal, case-by-case basis. So, in other words, that is what is being done also over here in this war. But basically, this war, which started on the 7th of October, 2023, is not a war, okay? The war, actually, the war between the local people and us started in 1921, okay? Now, that's over 100 years ago now. And we've been fighting the first, no, alimut, how does one say it in English? How does one say alimut in English?
Violence.
What? Violence, that's right. I'm forgetting my English, okay. I'm forgetting my English. I'm here for only 69 years, and you know, one forgets in the course of 69 years. So, violence. The violence started in 1921. I mean, we were attacked by the by the Arabs, and there was and it has continued until this day, and the end is not in sight. Now, most attempts to bring about peace, whether it is between Israel and the Arabs, or whether it is between Pakistan and India, or whether it is between Ireland, North and South Ireland, or whatever, wherever there are problems, they are treated on a case-by-case basis. In other words, what can one side do to the other? What concessions can it make? What demands can it make to bring about peace? Okay, and it is always concentrated on the on the events of that conflict. Okay, it's not. It is that conflict is addressed, and one tries to make peace. Okay, but I suggest that we first try to understand the root causes of war. Why do people go to war? Okay, why? All right, and just like one studies disease, disease is studied on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so I just told Neva I have a little medical problem, and I spent most of the day treating that problem. And thank God it's only a little problem. It's not a very serious problem. But and they look at me, the doctors look at me, and they examine me, and they suggest this or that drug or whatever it is, okay? So diseases are also treated on a case-by-case basis. But they are also treated on a general basis. In other words, there's cancer research, for example. Okay, my problem is not cancer, don't worry. Okay, there's cancer research. And cancer research does not have to do with human beings, okay? It has to do with mice. We try to understand what makes a cancer grow, what makes a cancer happen, and we don't at all try to cure it. We try to make it happen. So understand what makes it happen, how can we change the world in a way which will eliminate cancer. Okay, that's just one example. All right, and so now I'm suggesting that we try to understand the root causes of war. Why do people go to war? Okay? All right. And we're going to do that with the help of game theory. Okay? Now, what is game theory? Okay? What is game theory? It is the rational analysis. Now, I'm putting that word in red, because we're going to try to find out what we mean by rational, okay? But for the time being, it's the rational analysis of situations involving several participants, each participant striving to different goals. So the different participants are interacting, okay? And they are interacting with each other, and they're striving to different goals. So each one has to take into account how the other one will react to his moves and so on, all right? I'll give you some examples. That's an abstract definition. Examples: chess, football, and other games. You know, that's where the word game theory comes from. Because when you're playing chess, okay, that you are striving not only to different goals, the two players, but you're striving to opposite goals. Now, not all of game theory is about opposite goals. Most of the important game theory is not about opposite goals. But the opposite goal sort of sharpens the problem. Okay, you have to not only promote your own goals, but you also have to see. What you're doing has to react to the other person's, the other players, the other participants' moves, and so on. So it's like chess and football and other games. These are called zero-sum games, because the sum of the results is zero. It's what's good for one is bad for the other, by definition, so to speak, in these games. All right, but in more important games, like the sale of a house or sale of an automobile, so the people are the buyer and the seller are negotiating, and the buyer wants to pay less and the seller wants to pay more. Okay. All right, so the objectives are opposite in that sense, but they are not really opposite, because both sides want the transaction to be consummated. Okay, Israel's economy, or any economy, the economy of any country, yes, Vietnam's economy. All right, we have people making up the economy. They all want to eat. They want to have a nice place to live. They want clothes. They want an education. So if I eat, okay, that is, I'm promoting my goals. But I'm not promoting your goals by eating. You eat, then you are promoting your goals. So our goals are a little different, okay? We interact with each other, we buy and sell from each other, we get salaries, we get payments for our work, but we are acting together. We try to maximize the we try to make it good for everybody. But basically, we're try to make it good for everybody, because if it's good for everybody, it's good for me also. All right. So basically, I am promoting my own welfare in Israel's economy. Okay. All right. Now, coming here this evening is also promoting my welfare. All right, because I'm going to try to sell you some ideas which I think are important. Okay, so I think you'll I hope you'll agree with me, and but if you don't, say so. You can interrupt me, by the way, in the middle, and or at the end there'll be a question and answer session, a discussion, I hope, and at that time is a good idea. But if there's something that's not clear that I'm saying, then you should interrupt me and you should say, Yisrael, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? Okay? So an economy of a country, not only Israel's economy. Israel's economy, I said, in order to be definite. Strikes. Okay? In a strike, the workers, the union wants to get a higher pay for its members, or other benefits, and the employer says it's difficult for me to do this because I'm going to go broke, or something like that. In a strike, the goals are not opposite, not entirely opposite. They are partially opposite, in that the union wants a higher pay and the employer wants a lower pay, but they're not entirely opposite, because the union does not want to make the employer go broke, okay? And the employer wants the the workers to be happy, okay? So they're not entirely opposite, they're partially opposite, and most games or most applications of game theory are that way. Wars also, okay? Wars also, in a war, of course, it's not a zero-sum game, okay? Because both sides, in most wars, okay, maybe not in the current war, but in most wars, both sides would want the casualties on both sides to be lower, okay? So there's agreement, and there's not a zero-sum effect over there. There's an agreement on that. Maybe in the current war not. I mean, Hamas, I think, is not so bothered by casualties on its side, okay? So it's not clear. I think we are interested, we're not interested in reducing the casualties of Hamas either. We are perhaps interested in reducing casualties to the civilians in Gaza, but not to the fighters. Okay. Now, I used the word rational, and I had in Hebrew. It's the rational analysis. So let me ask, what is rationality? So the answer is, an individual's behavior is rational if it is in his best interest, or her best interest, given his information. Okay? So a person is acting rationally if he's doing something which is in his best interest, okay? And part of this evening is going to be an exploration of what is rational behavior in a conflict situation, okay? Like we've experienced for the last 104 years, okay? All right. So now we ask the question, can war be rational? Okay. Can strikes be rational? I introduced wars and strikes as games in the previous slide. Can racial or gender discrimination be rational? And the answer is yes, they can be. We take all the ills of the world and dismiss them by calling them irrational. We say war is irrational, strikes are irrational, gender discrimination is irrational. If they are rational, once we understand that they are, we can try to address the problem. But if we dismiss them as irrational, we can't address the problem. I mean, what can we do if it's irrational, if people irrationally go to war? What is it that we can do? But if it's rational that they go to war, we can try to address the problem. Okay, so I'm going to try to address the problem. I assert that all those ills that we mentioned are rational. They're the result of rational activity by the players. Okay, the players are the participants. So now I'm going to try to use game theory, which is rational analysis of interactive situations, and to address these problems. And game theory, in one word, what's that one word? It's incentives. It's creating the proper incentives to the other side to do what's good for you. Okay? So the example, there's an example of taxes. Okay? We want people to give charity. Okay, so we write into the tax laws that charitable contributions are deductible from income up to a certain limit. Okay, The example is market economies. Okay, let's spend a few minutes on that. The 20th century was marked by a lot of socialism. Okay, now socialism, many countries adopted socialism as the driving force of their economy, like the Soviet Union, Vietnam, China, and so on. Okay, many. And now, what is socialism? Socialism is the motto, the underlying motto of socialism is to each according to his needs, from each according to his ability. Okay, that is socialism. That sums up socialism. Okay, so everybody should get according to his needs, and he should give according to his ability. Now that sounds wonderful. Okay, now I signed down on that with both hands. Okay, I think it's a wonderful idea. There's only one small problem with it. One small problem with the philosophy of to each according to his needs, from each according to his ability. It doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? As the 20th century proved. Okay, and in China also, by the way, they went from a socialist to a market economy in 1979. In Vietnam, it was in 1986. In Russia, in the Soviet Union, it was in 1989, something like that. Why doesn't it work? Well, it doesn't work because you don't have the right incentives. If each gets according to his needs, no matter what, then why work? Okay, why lashkia? How does one say it in English? What? Invest. Invest. No. Contribute. Well, why put in work? Why put in trouble? Yes, sit back and get according to your needs. Okay. And from each according to his ability. Why should I work? Yeah, because I'm not going to get paid according to my work. Okay, I'm going to get paid according to my needs. So why should I? So there are no incentives. Okay, incentives is the underlying idea of game theory, okay? To try to give incentives to all the players to do what you want them to do, okay? Let me...
Is the Shoah rational?
What's that?
Is
the Shoah rational? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The Shoah was rational. It's a good question. It's a wonderful question. Because Hitler, and not only Hitler, but many German people, okay, they wanted to destroy the Jews. They thought that the Jews were destroying the world, okay? They hated the Jews, okay? Now, in a civilized society, if you hate somebody, you don't kill him, okay? But the world is not a civilized society, and Hitler thought that he really hated the Jews, okay? He really hated them, so he was promoting his goal by killing them, okay? He was promoting his goals by killing them. So the Shoah, yeah, absolutely, it is rational, and we better realize that. We better realize that the Shoah was rational, because it's not only good goals that got promoted, yes, it's also bad goals. My goal is to keep this show going.
So even if the hatred,
Okay. So
the hatred of the Jews is not rational, the fact that they believe in it will make it rational, right?
what's that?
Even if they hate the Jews because of the hatred of Jews is not rational, the fact that they
No,
believe
no,
in
the hatred of Jews is rational.
So
Let's, it's a rational. Let's go back. I think it's very, very important. I thank you for asking that question because it's very important to realize that. Okay? What is rationality? Individual's behavior is rational if it is in his best interest, given his information. Okay, so the Hitler he thought that he wanted to get rid of the Jews, and it was in his best interest to get rid of the Jews. Okay, he wanted it. Now let's not confuse rationality with goodness. Okay, rationality is not goodness. We take all the ills of the world and dismiss them by calling them irrational. Okay? But if they, Hitler really wanted to destroy the Jews. He had no ulterior motive. Okay? He was a super rational.
Okay. Well, can you give an example of irrational things, or isn't?
Yeah, we're going to get a lot of examples of irrational this evening. We're going to get a lot of examples. So just hold your fire, and we're going to see a lot of irrational activities, and most of them carried out by us. Okay, by us. I'll give you I'll give you some examples. Now,
you wrote given his information, but you should also refer to the belief or the interpretation of the information, because the interpretation of the information can be different for different...
No, given his information when the interpretation is clear, we are acting irrationally. We, Israel, okay? אתה יכול לדבר עברית, מפני שאחרי 79 שנה אני גם מדבר עברית. Okay, so we are acting irrational, but let me get to that, okay? The word is incentives, okay? What does incentive mean? An incentive means to create a situation where it is good for the other side to do what's good for you. That's an incentive, okay? So incentives for peace. Okay. זה בסדר, תשאיר כאן, מה? אתה חושש שאני אשפוך את זה על המסד? אוקיי, בסדר. Incentives for peace. So now we're going to explore some incentives for peace. Okay? Concessions. Make concessions to the other side, make the other side feel good. No, that doesn't work. Munich, 1938. I don't know how many of you know about Munich in 1938, but Hitler was threatening Czechoslovakia. So he wanted to occupy actually the western part of Czechoslovakia, but so he said that this is a threat to him. Okay, so Daladier, the Premier of France, and Chamberlain, the Premier of England, and Hitler got together in Munich in 1938, and they argued, and then finally Chamberlain and Daladier said to Hitler, do you promise that this is your last demand? Okay, Hitler had been making all kinds of demands and violations of the Versailles Treaty, and he militarized the Rhineland, all kinds of things. Now, they asked him, "Are you willing to? Is this your last demand?" So Hitler said, "Yes, it's my last demand." So they said, "Sign this piece of paper, okay, which says that this is your last demand. You have no other demands." So he said, "Sure, I'll be glad to sign." And he signed, okay? That's the Munich Treaty. And Chamberlain went back to London and he told the House of Commons, "I have brought with me peace in our time." Okay? Peace in our time. And what he brought with him, actually, that's what he told the House of Commons, but what he brought with him was war in our time. Because a year and a half later, in Munich, on the 1st of September 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, okay? And England and France did not respond immediately, okay? Because Chamberlain told his cabinet, "Okay, let him get away with it, okay? No war. I want peace in our time." So his cabinet said to him, "Mr. Chamberlain, if we don't go to war now, then you are not the Prime Minister of England," okay? And so on September 3rd, 2 days after the invasion of Poland, Hitler, England declared war on Germany. And England declared war on Germany, and they telegraphed, there was no email at the time, and they telegraphed the British ambassador in Berlin, his name was Henderson, and they said, "England has declared war on Germany. Please notify the Foreign Office of Germany." And Henderson went to the Foreign Office and he told the Foreign Minister, I've forgotten his name now, and the Foreign Minister was very surprised, and he phoned Hitler, and Hitler threw a fit of anger. He said, "The British cheated me," okay, because they gave me the impression that I can get away with anything, okay. So they cheated me, okay, and the result is war, the Second World War, the bloodiest war of all time. Okay, so concessions is not an incentive for peace. Disarmament, okay, in other words, there was in the period after, in the second half of the 20th century, there was a lot of pressure. I remember in the United States, when I went on sabbatical once in a few years, there were demonstrations to unilaterally destroy atomic weapons, okay? Fortunately, the American government did not do that. And the result was the Cold War. The Cold War was cold. It wasn't hot. There's a big difference between a Cold War and a hot war. Believe me, there's a big difference, okay? A Cold War is not a war. A Cold War is peace, okay? A Cold War is peace. And the Cold War, the balance of nuclear weapons on the two sides kept the peace in the second half of the 20th century. Now I'll give you the Pax Romana. You realize that there are question marks on the first two items. But the Pax Romana, there's no question mark. That is an incentive for peace. What is the Pax Romana? It's a period of about 200 years from, let's say, 150 to 350 AD, in which there was no war. No war in the western part of the world. No war, okay? And how did it come about? The Romans had a proverb, si vis pacem para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. And that is what kept the Pax Romana going for 200 years. Let me tell you a story. I like to go, I have, Baruch Hashem, I have 21 grandchildren, okay? And I like to go with, as they get to the age of 14 or 15, I like to go abroad with them for a week or two, okay? And just the grandchild and me, just the two of us, so we can interact with each other. And we can get to know each other. No parents, no nothing, yes? Just him or her and me. So I went with a 15-year-old grandchild to Switzerland. And we hiked in Switzerland. And there were fighter planes screaming overhead. So my grandson asks me, Saba, what are those fighter planes? So what are those planes? He didn't know it's a fighter plane. I said, those are fighter planes of the Swiss Air Force. Okay? So he said to me, why does Switzerland need fighter planes? They've been at peace for 400 years. Okay? So why do they need fighter planes? Why do they waste their money on them? So I said to him, Nave, do you know why they have been at peace for 400 years? So he said, why? I said, because of those fighter planes, okay? Si vis pacem para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. Okay, let's get to Israel. Okay, now, contrary to my reputation, let me declare at the outset that I want peace, okay? Okay, how do I get it? By shouting, peace, peace? No. By concessions? By gestures? By posters with doves flying in the air? By expelling 10,000 people from their homes, as we did in 20 years ago? Okay, we did it, okay? We're talking about irrationality, okay? Yeah, you got it, okay. What's irrational? No, these bring war. The summer of 05 expulsion of the Jews from the Gaza Strip. This, by the way, the first time the Jews expelled themselves, or any nation expelled itself, okay? We've had a lot of expulsion by Goyim, the expulsion from Spain in 1495, I think it was. The expulsion from England. We've had a lot of expulsions, but we've never had an expulsion that was carried out by us, okay, against Jews. The summer 05 expulsion brought the war of summer 06, the Milchemet Lebanon HaShniya, for those of you who understand Hebrew, the bombardment of southern Israel, and specifically Sderot, for 2 years, the caste-led and subsequent campaigns between the Gaza Strip and Israel. October 7th, with its abductions, the Khatifot, the current war. Okay, the summer '05 expulsion brought about the current war. Okay, that is because it enabled the enemy, Hamas, to take charge of Gaza, to build hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of tunnels, to take charge completely, and to actually do the attack of October 7th, the atrocity of October 7th. It enabled them. If we had been in Gaza, that would have been impossible. It would have been impossible. In Yirmiyahu says, Ki shtayim ra'ot asa ami, oti azvu, מקור מים חיים, לחצוב להם בורות. בורות נשברים אשר לא יכילו המים. For my people did two evils. They left me, the source of living waters, okay? They left God, okay? That is an evil. But another evil is to dig for themselves wells, broken wells, that will not hold water, okay? That we did it to ourselves by expelling our people in the summer of '05 from Gaza. We brought about the October 7th war. Okay. Now we come to the hostages, okay? Now what does game theory say regarding the hostages? Now what game theory says is that we're doing everything wrong. Everything wrong regarding the hostages. It's a disaster. Now when I say we, what do I mean by we? I don't mean our government, okay, but I mean we. When I came to this place, it was 7:30 when I entered. Now it's 5 to 9, okay, an hour and a half ago. I saw a sign with pictures of hostages, okay, and saying we want them all home. Okay, so it's we, it's us, it's Neva, it's Neva, and the rest of us, okay? We want, Neva explained to me, maybe she'll explain to you also, what that picture is doing there. It's a disaster. Specifically, we're giving the enemy all the wrong incentives. We remember, I remember what we said, to bring about peace, we have to give incentives for peace, okay? Incentives, we have to make it worthwhile. We're doing, game theory is all about incentives. Incentives, here, let me bring that big, game theory in one word, incentives, okay? So, we're giving the enemy all the wrong incentives. The very intense internal campaign inside Israel, which Machon Jabotinsky is a partner, okay? You will give you the floor in a minute, okay? The very intense internal campaign tells the enemy that the hostages are very important for us. The hostages are very important for us. Very, very important. They are the number one desire, the hostages. So he raises the price for the current hostages. Okay? Now when you go and buy a house, okay, now, or you go and you look at the house, okay, and you look at the you go to one of the porches, the verandas, and you say, oh, there's a beautiful view from here. Okay, I'm willing to pay a lot of money for this view, okay? And you say, the shower works beautifully over here. You don't do that when you're buying a house, right? Because you raise the price, okay? That's what we're doing with the hostages. We are raising the price of the hostages. We're raising the price to the extent that our government cannot agree to it, because what they want for the hostages, as a result of our campaign, saying this is very important to us, what they say is stop the war, let Hamas continue to rule Gaza. Let Hamas stop the war, okay? Stop the war unconditionally, okay? Leave the Rafiah road, pull out of Gaza, let Hamas continue. That's what they are insisting on. And that is a result, their insistence on that is the result of our campaign to release the hostages. So, moreover, he is incentivized to do a lot more abductions in the future, because he sees that we are very sensitive to abductions. We are very sensitive to having hostages taken. He sees that this is our Achilles heel, okay? And he's going to do more and more abductions. And in fact, the current war was enabled by the October 7th, was enabled by the release of Yahya Sinwar in the Gilad Shalit deal, okay? At that time, 1,027 prisoners with blood on their hands were released in exchange for one soldier, Gilad Shalit, okay, who had been taken prisoner. And that is what brought about the October 7th war, okay? Moreover, it's unbelievable that we pay with live prisoners with blood on their hands for dead hostages, okay? So that incentivizes, it reduces the cost to the enemy of killing the hostages. They can kill the hostages and they can still get prisoner swaps for them, okay? So we are making a big fuss about the two Bibas babies, okay? We made a big fuss about it. It was very important to us to get the bodies of the Bibas babies, and as a result of that, I have no doubt that Hamas will kill some of the hostages that are still alive, okay? Because they can get for the bodies, okay? The released terrorists, it is unbelievable that we are releasing 30 terrorists with blood on their hands for one hostage, okay? So released terrorists will likely kill many more of us than it will save hostages, as has happened with Gilad Shalit, okay? With Gilad Shalit, not talking about Yahya Sinwar, not talking about him, but the people, the released hostages, the released Chablanim, the terrorists that were released in the Shalit deal, personally killed. Now, Yahya Sinwar not personally, he only planned the October 7th attack, but he personally did not kill. Maybe he did, okay, but maybe he did on October 7th, I don't know. But before that, the released prisoners in the Shalit deal killed more than 10 Israelis in terror attacks. Okay, and we are now releasing thousands of terrorists. We are killing ourselves. Thank you. Okay, Niva, make the correction. Just a moment. First, Niva.
So,